At this mega transport, every millimeter counts. A transport of 529 tons, rolling on 34 axles, bringing the infrastructure to the limit. The infrastructure of Munich, Germany. A mega transport through the middle of a mega city. The transport starts in the north of Munich. The cargo? A new 238-ton gas turbine for a power plant. The vehicle has a total length of 90 meters. That is the largest transport in Munich's history. That's why the last checkup is very important. This task can only be performed by one person, truck driver and supervisor Frieder Sam. I'm checking the steering system one last time, and especially that this thing keeps standing. The special thing about Munich is that it is almost completely built with a cellar. Subways, underpasses, underground car parks, and so on. That's why everything has to be working perfectly. And the whole team has to work together perfectly as well. That's why exact briefings are so important. The transport starts at night to avoid heavy traffic. All right, let's go, everybody. Everybody has to fulfill his task precisely. Once the mega transport starts rolling, there is no room for any mistakes. After a few meters, the first obstacles await the crew, a low bridge. Good thing the cargo can be lifted and lowered, but in that case, the crew pushes the limits to fit under that bridge. There are only a few centimeters space at the top. And at the bottom, we also have only 2 centimeters. The crew needs to be very careful to make sure the cargo doesn't hit the ground. And they make it. But also, normal streets can be a problem. With a width of 6.5 meters, the transporter doesn't fit in all of the streets. So the workers lay out rubber mats to protect the curbsides. The whole team has to be careful all the time, because new challenges wait around every corner. Here we have to mind the many hanging traffic lights. So we have to go backwards, drive into that street, so that we can leave in this direction. The transporter needs every centimeter to get around this 90-degree turn, without hitting one of the many obstacles. A difficult task, even for the experienced team. Everything seems to work fine until the team hears this strange sound. The transport hit the curbside. We are stuck because there is not enough space between the axles and the curbside. Now, we connect the hydraulics to the rear truck so that we can lift the cargo. The team lifts the cargo a little more, and centimeter by centimeter, wheel by wheel, the transport rolls over the curbside without any damages. A 90-degree turn managed. The rest of the route is just straight ahead. The first stage of the transport completed, but the second day will be even more challenging. So, time for a rest. Now we secure the transporter, have a break in the hotel, and then we start again tomorrow at 6 a.m. A little before sunrise, the heavy transport crew meets again. Today, the gas turbine should arrive at its final destination, the power plant in the south of Munich. For that, they need to drive through the middle of the city. Munich does not have a lot of space to drive, and we go right through the middle of the city. We have many traffic lights now to drive under, and the catenary cables of the streetcars. And, of course, tight curves where we have to drive backwards. And right here in front of us, we have to use some additional axles to drive over a traffic tunnel. It is a difficult task, but everyone knows what to do. We can start. At 6 a.m., the transport starts rolling again. But only after a few meters, the 34 axles are not enough anymore. The crew needs to install 7 additional axles to split the weight of the cargo even more. That should avoid the traffic shaft from collapsing. The 7 additional axles have to be placed perfectly under the turbine. The axles are pulled by chains to get them under the turbine. Slowly and with full precision. Looks good.
Wir haben jetzt unten praktisch den
All of the traffic is stopped now. Down in the shaft are measuring devices to measure the deflection while we drive over it.
gleichzeitig jetzt die Durchbiegung, wenn wir drüber fahren.
The traffic cannot be stopped any longer. The transport needs to roll over the traffic shaft right now. Down in the shaft, the men are tense. They need to make sure that the ceiling doesn't collapse. Will the shaft hold the weight of the mega transport? It is now split over 41 axles. But the ceiling of the shaft has a lot of cracks already. The transporter is now right on top of the traffic shaft. The measuring devices detect every movement and deflection, Is everything under control? Yes, the tunnel holds. Supervisor Frieder Sam is relieved. We passed the tunnel and it is still in one piece. Now the team has to remove the axles again. Because only without the axles can the mega transport pass the next obstacle. A narrow 90-degree turn through the middle of historic buildings. Once again, the crew uses mats to protect the curbside. And after short moments of tension, this task is also mastered with perfect teamwork. The team is the alpha and the omega of the operation. You need people you can rely on. They need to have a keen eye and the overview, and especially they need to have the spirit. They really need to mean what they do. And the next challenge for this team is right ahead. At the next turn, the transport needs to cross under the overhead lines of the streetcar. To make that possible, they need to be lifted to a height of at least 5.4 meters. Otherwise, the cargo might damage the lines, which would be disastrous for the public transport in Munich. The team measures every single line to make sure it is high enough. Now the transporter can come, but will it fit? Yes, the cargo crosses the catenary cables without damages. But at the next crossroads, the crew faces the same problem. Once again, the catenary cables have to be lifted carefully. High enough, but we still need to check everything so we won't get stuck. And again, the transport rolls on. But at this crossroads, the catenary cables are not the only problem. We need to lift the cargo now so that we don't get stuck on the streetcar tracks. Up top, we have the catenary cables we also need to be careful with, and in the back, we need to take the curve perfectly. Once again, it is a matter of centimeters, at the top and at the bottom. Everybody is extremely focused. until the railways are finally crossed. Now it's just straight ahead. But straight ahead can also cause some problems. With rather easy solutions. Of course, a transport that big will attract some fans. And then, for the first time, the final destination is in sight. The power plant in the south of Munich that ordered the new gas turbine. In the next street, we have a narrow passage. There is a wall on the left and a big lantern on the right. We have to lift the cargo 1.3 meters over the wall and lower it again right after that to pass a bridge. This is the last big challenge for Supervisor Frieder Sam and his team. At this spot, they don't have enough space. So they lift the cargo over the guardrail. Now the turbine seems to float over the rail. The fans hold their breath. But with focus and lots of experience, the team also manages this last challenge. Next stop, the power plant. The turbine is delivered there to produce electricity that is environmentally friendly. After 2 days and over 20 kilometers of transportation, the gas turbine arrives at its new home in the south of Munich. Everyone is relieved, especially truck driver and supervisor Frieder Sam.
Ja, geschafft, sind wir am Ziel.
We did it. Everything went fine. No damages. That's how it should be. No complications, everything went fine. We are relieved now, and there was no reason to be worried or to complain.
Eigentlich gab es keinen Grund irgendwie für Besorgnis oder Neckerei. Alles gut.
The team now takes a well-deserved break. But they are always ready for the next mega transport.